Welcome everyone. Marsha, recording is on, which is good because we will save this for people who cannot join us today. We'll post it in the webinar forum, in the webinar section very quickly afterwards. So today, a little bit administrative thing is that we will have the greetings and administrative stuff we posted on the chat. For question about the webinar content, please post this on the Q&A session. So before we started with the we have a great lineup today. I would like to give you some background of this short course. Slide change, please. Oh, Victoria, can you change? Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, so this short course is actually a follow-up of the 2022 Research for Life Publishing and Research Communication webinar series. And you can find the information in this in the link here and also in the picture here. All the materials still available on Research for Life, just like the material here will be available for all. So you can check it out. They have very good 6 webinar, very good content. So the series was a success. We claimed that, people told us that, but from the feedback, we identified 4 topics, which is a top concern for the participant, which they would like to know more. So the feedback also told us that shorter and focused program will be more beneficial. So also in order to engage participants to achieve their learning objective, we decided to organize webinars and their associated content on a dedicated platform and with discussion forum like we have and supplementary study material. So that's how the short course is was born actually. So we grouped the 3 topic, which is highly interrelated in the current 6-week short course, from idea to articles, manuscript writing, journal selection, and publishing in a high-impact journals. So the current course will run from 19th of May to 2nd of July. In the second short course, we'll address the 4th topic, research funding and research proposal. So it is planned to be held in the autumn of 2023, so stay tuned. So slide change, please. And so this is my last slide. So we're very fortunate to have a great working group to contribute ideas and carry out all the activities that make the course a reality. So you can see the members' names here, and they all deserve a round of applause, and also to the presenter and all involved. So thank you. So now I want to pass the baton to Gracian. So let him introduce himself and also introduce other speaker.
Thank you very much, Kathy. We're glad to have so many of our colleagues joining in today. We have a great lineup as far as the speakers are concerned. We have got a lot of experience in the house. Let me take the opportunity to start by introducing Professor Dele Fawole. He's based in Nigeria. He spent 4 decades at the University of Ibadan and is a professor of nematology. He just recently retired, but he has done a lot of work in terms of training, especially on research article writing, and also, of course, working on access to literature and published literature, specifically on journal articles. He has worked with ITOCA since 2008 and done a lot of training, particularly in the Western region of Africa, having taught at many of the workshops that we have run as ITOCA. So welcome, Prof. Dele. He will be giving you a session right at the onset of this presentation. He will be joined by my colleague, Mercy, who is the Deputy Director here at ITOCA. Mercy has also done a lot of facilitation and training, and she holds a master's degree in information science And she has been doing a lot of training, especially on access and research for life specifically. So she's got a lot of experience with that. You will also have the opportunity to hear from our colleague, Victoria. Victoria is based in Sweden, and she is the Director of Research and Development and Outreach based at Taylor and Francis. She's been there since 2008, and she's done a lot of training, really engaging with the global researchers communities as far as building knowledge and capacity development is concerned, working with publishing and research, and has got a lot of experience, especially to ensure that your manuscript is published. So welcome, Victoria. And we'll also have the opportunity to hear from our colleague, Dr. Cenyu Shen. She is with the Directory of Open Access Journals and based in the UK. She's worked a lot, especially with the East in China, representing DOAJ, and she holds a PhD in information science from Henken School of Economics in Finland. So welcome, Cenyu, and we really look forward to hearing from you. I will also help with in terms of the presentation. I'm based here in South Africa. My name is Gracian, Chimwaza, and I'm the director here at ITOCA. We have been collaborating as a partner with Research for Life since the beginning in 2002, and we've collaborated with some of you as far as training is concerned in the use and access to research, especially training on Research for Life. Previously, we have worked with some of you with the TIL program and making sure that you have got access to published literature. So I will also be collaborating with my colleague, Biliamin Popola, who is helping me as far as the requirements at the universities are concerned in terms of research. He is based at the university in Nigeria, working on medical systems. So welcome as well, Biliamin. This is the team that we have today. And I look forward to having as much in terms of experience being shared in this room. And please feel free to ask any questions and make any comments that you have. We'll take a breather after each of the presentations, and we will ensure that you get the opportunity to exchange as far as experiences at your institutions and the kind of challenges that you are facing. The idea and the focus of this webinar is to really make sure that you select the right journal. But not only do you do that, but you ensure that at the end of the day, your manuscript is in a position to be accepted so that you can publish your own innovations. That's the ultimate goal of this session, and we would like to assist you as much as possible to achieve that goal. Welcome, team, and thank you very much. I think let's start with the first session. Prof. Dele, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Actually, I think it's Mercy that starts off.
Okay. Thank you, Gracian. Thank you, facilitators. Welcome to all the participants. My name is Ms. Moyo. I'm the Deputy Director for Research and Training at ITOCA. I've already been introduced by Gracian. So like for our session, I'm collaborating with Prof. Dele, who is the West African representative for ITOCA. So we are going to cover identifying your audience. So may you kindly move to the next slide, please. Okay, so to kickstart the session, we've got a Menti that we want you to actually complete. It's a poll that we want you to complete. So can you kindly go on to the, let me put the address onto that address, that www.mendi.com. I don't know, Kathy, like Victoria, do you have it on hand? The Menti, okay, all right, let me type it.
Yes,
some
here.
are already there. Okay.
Has somebody typed it in the chat?
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. So we want to know from you, before writing your manuscript, do you usually think about your audience? So can you go on to www.mendi.com, you enter the code, you'll be asked for a code. So the code is 5830.
I've put it in the chat as well.
All right, thank you very much, Victoria. All right, we now have 4 responses. We want as many responses as we can. Possibly if all 250 of us can complete that Menti. I see the numbers are rising.
And I should just say we're going to be doing 2 other polls, so it's good to keep this window open for the whole presentation because we will go back to Mentimeter.
Yeah, if you have lost the message, I have reinserted the link and the code in the chat. We now have 11 completions, 12. There is someone, please don't type in the chat. Can you please go to the Menti so that we can capture all your responses? So go to www.menti.com, then you insert that code 63135830. Yes, then you can actually add your response there. Okay, the numbers are picking up.
Yes.
We'll give each other 30 more seconds before we can review the results and go on to the next part of the presentation. Okay. We are close to 100 now. Yeah, we've already reached 100. So we are going to close now and review the results. So as you can see, the results are still coming in. All right, so the question was, do you usually think about your audience? Oh, sorry, Victoria, the Menti results, they disappeared. Okay, so do you usually think about your audience before writing your manuscript? So 58 people said they always think about their audience before they write their manuscript. And 56 said sometimes, and 18 said no. So we are going to actually discuss why it is important for you to think about your audience before you start writing your manuscript, and also the questions that you need to ask yourself about your audiences. For that part of the presentation, I'm going to hand over to Prof. Dele. Over to you, Prof. Thank you, Victoria, for the results.
Thank you very much, Mercy, for that. Good afternoon, participants. As we could see from the results of the poll, majority of us hardly think about identifying the audience. At least more than 50% don't think that it is important. Well, why do we think it is important for us to identify the audience before writing? It helps us to make decisions about what information to include in our manuscripts and how we need to identify that information, and also what kind of supporting details will be necessary for the reader to understand what you are preparing. It also influences the tone and structure of the manuscript. Next slide, please. The need, the question we need to ask is, what audience am I trying to reach? Am I trying to reach a general audience, for example, agriculturists, or a specialized audience, nematologists, Am I trying to reach a general audience, medical practitioners, or specialized audience, neurosurgeons? And I was happy to note the question from one of the participants saying that he has a manuscript already prepared, and he wants to know whether he should go to the International Journal of Agricultural Science, which is a general journal, or the International Journal of Entomology. Okay, so it is very, very important that we must ask ourselves, what audience am I trying to reach? For the person who asks about entomology, we will save a full discussion of that until later. But it is also very important to note that you must be very certain about the information that you are adding to the existing body of knowledge to excite the audience. Okay? Are you adding something new, or you are just regurgitating what is already known? Will each member of your target audience agree with what you have to say? If not, and this is most likely to be the case, what counter arguments should you be prepared to answer? And I can tell you that most of the times, the problem is with methodology, analysis of the results, as well as the interpretation of results. So it is very, very important for us to consider the audience, because it will help us in choosing the particular journal and in moving forward in preparation of the journal. I think that is all about it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
right,
Prof,
so
thank you very much.
all right.
We hand over for to the next facilitators. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Mercy.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Do we have any questions in the chat?
No, not at
No?
this point.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will now focus on the next session, which is the institutional requirements. What are the requirements at the institution that really drive our research activities? Usually you will find, next slide please, that at the institution, there will be requirements that pertain to your portfolio as a researcher. You may be an academic staff that is at a certain level, maybe an assistant lecturer, or you may be an assistant professor. You will find that the requirements of your tenure, of your promotion, will be usually around the balance of three aspects of your portfolio, and that is teaching, research, and outreach. The outreach work that you are doing as far as working with the community is quite important, and is quite also weighed against the work that you are doing as far as teaching and research is concerned. And because of those kind of requirements, you will see that the institution or your department will be looking at you delivering as far as research is concerned and encouraging you to do that work. Of course, depending on the rank that you have, the balance of those and the ratio of that work will depend from institution to institution. And also, there may be requirements as far as the number of publications that are expected of you by the department. And this may be according to the level that you have as a rank. Say you are being promoted from being an assistant professor to a full professorship. There may be number of articles that you are required to publish as research articles or proceedings at a conference, or as books or book chapters that you are likely to be required to fulfill as far as ticking the boxes for your promotion are concerned. And again, this varies really according to what the departments would like you to do. You will find sometimes at some universities and research organizations, they may be specific as far as the actual article, the journals are concerned, the type of journals are concerned, be they local journals or international journals, or online open access journals, or the closed access traditional journals that you are publishing in. All that is important to be able to tick those boxes as far as tenure and promotions are concerned. Sometimes the university will talk to and be more specific as far as the editorial boards are concerned at those journals that you are targeting. And all those things need to be taken into consideration. The idea is that you are encouraged by the requirements at the institution for you to be doing the publishing. So coupled with that, you might find that also in terms of the authorship guidelines that you have in the departments, they are very specific, and sometimes will tell you as far as how the work that you are doing with your students is concerned. You will find that sometimes the students' work that then generates and results in the dissertation also gives an opportunity for you to do some research and for you to be able to publish your manuscripts based on that. But working in collaboration with the students, there may be guidelines to that, to say who is the first author and the second author or the last author as far as that is concerned. Usually at many of the universities, the idea is that you are a mentor and you are ensuring that you are building the capacity of the students. And therefore, they don't expect you many of the times for you to be the main author when you are working with the students. And the kind of publications is a result of the work that is being done by the student. So this, of course, varies from institution to institution, but the idea is that there are opportunities for you to look for innovations that you can publish. And usually, institutions really encourage you to take those opportunities. Next slide, please. The other aspect is to do with how you carry out the research itself. You will find that if you are working particularly with humans, subjects, and animal subjects, there is control as far as the ethical side of things are concerned. There is usually a research ethics committee that ensures that your instruments comply with the requirements at that institutions, and you have to make sure that when you are going out with your manuscript and when you are actually developing the research in terms of the methodology and when you are going to collect the actual data to support your research, you put into that consideration as far as the time to go through those processes as far as the ethical clearance is concerned at the institution. This is to ensure that you are within the ethics realm that are required by the institution, but also in terms of the timing and the cycle it takes for that committee to go through your work. You want to put that in your system as far as your timelines are concerned and intentions to publish and meet the requirements at the end of the day. The publication policies are also quite important, and they do direct us on what actually happens at the institutions with the work that you have published. Sometimes the institution will require that for every publication before it goes out, it should also be put into an institutional repository at the institution, especially if the institution is working on the electronics and also looking at the publications coming out of the institution itself and the rankings as an institution, especially if it is a university. Those applications depend on each university, but you will find that at the end of the day, the idea is that your work is published and is affiliated to your institution, and therefore the policies that are in place are to encourage you as much as possible to go through the process at the institution. Lastly, and quite importantly, if your research is breakthrough research and you are doing something that is patentable, your data, your findings, it's something that you probably want to hold on to as private data because maybe it might have commercial interests. things like that usually go through the legal units, and something that you also want to consider as far as research is concerned. Many of you may have come across professors, researchers at your institutions that only did not push the boundaries of innovation as far as the work that they are doing in their disciplines, but also internationally, they have actually broken through in terms of the findings that they are working with, and it's something maybe that of commercial value. And those things really then brings in the legal side of things, and make sure that also you tick those boxes and ensure that that work and findings are protected before they go out. And all these things and the items that we are talking about here is to encourage you as a researcher at the end of the day to make sure that you are ticking all these boxes at the institution, but ultimately you are encouraged to get your innovations out there through publications. And that's the aim at the end of the day, that we would like that manuscript to meet the requirements so that it is at the end of the day published for the benefit of your colleagues and also the international arena as far as addressing the challenges that you are addressing in your area of specialization. I'd like to stop here and see if there are any questions. If not, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next session.
There are two questions in the Q&A that you might want to address.
Thanks, Lenny.
Yes, Lenny, I'm attending to the first one right now.
Thank you.
Okay, I see that John Peter, you also have a question, and that second question is about the publications and the support you'd like to see from Research for Life. And basically, this kind of trainings that we are doing is the kind of support that we are trying to give to our researchers. We are trying to say, for your work that you are doing, the access now you are getting from Research for Life as far as articles are concerned, we would like to see how we can assist you to add your innovation in your area of specialization so that you are also able to publish. Many of our partners are publishers. They have got their own courses and they've got experiences that they are sharing. And we are hopeful that in this kind of a series of courses, we'll be able to assist you and give you tips on how you can publish your own work at the end of the day.
Can I also add to that point? Also, Research for Life, as Research for Life, we've got a page on our website where we've got best practices for APC waivers. So most of us are coming from the developing countries. So we know that some of the authors might need waivers for them to publish. So I'm going to add the link to that page in the emails for guidance for those that want to know about publisher waivers. Thank you.
If I can add about one, I know that Dele was writing, Professor Dele was writing an answer about a journal for a specific audience and a target audience. I remember some workshops where I had physicians arguing with each other about whether it should go to the broader audience or the target audience. I think one thing that's useful is to look at the guidelines from the journal, and that may help you decide which way to go.
Thank you very much, Lenny. I see we've got two additional questions from Tok Panusha, and he talks about the requirements for publication. And also Purity Nyambura is talking about the can I publish also my research and upload it into the IR as institutional repository? Samuel talks about how do you know what your work, so how do you tell whether your work is new and innovative? Okay. All right. So as far as the requirements of publishing in your institutional repository, that requirement is usually by your own institution. And of course, you would have to look at what the requirements of those publishers that you are targeting say, as far as having an archive at your institution and what version of the copy of that publication is and what is allowed in terms of the copyrights around that. But I'll leave that, and as I know that some of my colleagues will be attending to that in the next sessions. So looking also at the time, I think we will hold on to that. Some of the questions that you have, we'll try and answer those through the chat. Thank you very much.
Really useful. Hello, everyone. So now we're going to discuss how to select a trustworthy quality journal to publish your work in. And choosing the right journal for your work is incredibly important and worth your time and energy. As you see on this slide, the #1 reason articles are rejected is because they weren't a good fit for the journal in terms of topic, article type, maybe methodology or communication style. So DES rejects tend to be the most common type of rejection that happens in a journal. So identifying potential journals to publish in, especially when you're just starting out, can be really challenging. And we're seeing that with a few of the questions that are in the chat right now. There are many indexes out there, but I'm going to focus on 2 of the most relevant journal indexes in terms of coverage. So that's the Web of Science and Scopus, as well as publisher websites. And then my colleague Cenyu will discuss another excellent resource, the DOAJ, in just a moment when I'm finished. But first of all, I'd like to hear from all of you. What do you think are the key characteristics of a high quality journal? So we're going to go back to Mentimeter here. Let's see. And we will go to the next slide on Mentimeter, if it cooperates. There we go. So this is just kind of a free write. So you can pop in words that come to mind when you think of high quality journal. Innovative. High impact factor. Coverage, excellence. Citations, yeah. Peer reviewed, that's good. Relevance. It always gets so hard to read as it goes. Free of method errors, wide audience, open access, well-written, new information, high impact. I'm not going to be able to follow along here, but we will collect all these and share the findings with everyone. So what you're really seeing here, though, is high impact factor seems to really be a key marker for many of you, and peer review is right there. Relevance, open access. See if there's any other ones emerging. So we've got peer review coming up in different forms there, and citations coming up in different forms, which I guess would feed into that impact factor there. Great. Highly cited. Yeah, so it seems to really be settling on peer-reviewed, high impact factor, and open access, and innovative there. All right, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on, but feel free to continue to write your thoughts in there, because as I said, we'll share those afterwards with everyone. So we're going to cover some of this today, but what I'd like to do is first take a look at the Web of Science. So for those of you that don't know the Web of Science is a database that's comprised of a number of indexes. So they've got the Science Citation Index, they've got the Social Science Citation Index, the Arts and Humanities Citation Index, and the Emerging Sources Citation Index. So all of those can be found in the Web of Science. And here are the main characteristics Clarivate looks for in a journal when they're evaluating whether it should be included in one of their indexes. So if we look at this, they want the basic information there. And I've highlighted that they really want contact details on their websites. They want authors to be able to contact the publisher or the editors. They want article titles and abstracts in English. It doesn't mean that the article itself can't be in another language, but they do want that kind of, they do want those two pieces in English, or at least a translation of those two. They want a clear peer review and editorial policy. They're interested in timeliness of publication. So they really want to see that the journal is publishing regularly, that there aren't really huge gaps in publication. They're interested in the quality and website functionality. And then they want editorial board information. They really want to see where the editors are based, what their affiliations are. And then the same is true about author information. They want to see as much author information as possible, and definitely the affiliation details. So I'll show you quickly how you can identify journals that are in your area that might be a good fit and worth exploring further. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop off the presentation here, and we're going to go to the Web of Science. So can everyone see that? We've moved to the Web of Science master list. I'll assume everyone can see it. All right, so the great thing about the Web of Science is that you don't need to have a subscription. They have the option to have a free subscription. So you can just register for this and have the same kind of accessibility. And I wanted to just highlight a couple things on this main page. We're going to do the search in a moment, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that they have what they call a match manuscript function. And what this function is basically it helps you discover journals. And what they ask you to do is write your title in and then copy and paste your abstract. And then you click on that Find Journals, and it will produce a list of journals it thinks is a good fit based on the language that you've used in your abstract. So it's really important that you use specific language in your abstract that really reflects the type of research that you're doing. Now, that list is a starting point. You still need to do your research because, you know, it's just taking a guess based on the language. So you still need to do some due diligence in terms of looking into those journals. And I'll talk about what you need to look into. But in terms of finding journals and just trying to build up a list on your own of journals that you think might be a good idea, they do have some great functionality here. So we're going to look for journals in geography because that's my background. And so you just type in the word geography, and then it's going to take you to this page where it will have a whole list of the journals with whatever topic you put in. You could put in education, it'll have all the education journals that are indexed. Here we see that there's 698 geography journals indexed in the Web of Science. And there's a lot of functionality on this site. So let's just take a look at this first journal here, geography. And you can go and look at the profile page that they've created. And you'll find a lot of information here. So at the top, you're going to find the basic information, the ISSN and such, but you're also going to see the address of the publisher. And then you'll find links to the journal website, as well as the publisher website, when the journal was launched, how many times a year they publish. And when you come down below, you'll see what collections, the different indexes it's a part of. And then when you come down here, you'll see the journal impact factor. So the journal impact factor is measuring citations within a 2-year window, period. And so basically it takes all the publications of that 2-year period and then divides it by the number of citations. And then you get this number. So you can find all that information there. They also have a new metric that they're using, which is a journal citation indicator, and that window is a little bit longer. It's a 3-year window. And then when you come down here, you'll see some information about the peer review and any other kind of key indexes that the journal is included in. So here it's PubMed. So this is just kind of what you find on the journal page in the Web of Science. But then over here, you've got a lot of filters that you can use. So there was a lot of interest in open access, I noticed, in terms of high quality. So you can click on and just limit it to journals that are indexed in the DOAJ. You can also look by category, country, language, frequency, etc. So here, now we have another list of journals that are within geography and they're open access. Again, you can go to the profile page, you'll see all the same information, but when you go down to the bottom, there'll be specific information about open access. So around copyright and licensing, and I'll leave the information about DOAJ for Cenyu, who will talk about that in a bit. So that is the Web of Science. We're going to go back to the presentation now. And we're going to look at another key index, which is Scopus. And they were originally much more inclusive, though I think now the Web of Science has expanded the number and types of journals in their index, but originally Scopus had many more journals in their index. And similar to the Web of Science, Scopus has quite a few criteria that each journal must meet to be included. And I should say, these are the same criteria that all of you should be looking for when you're looking for journals to publish in. You should be looking for these markers as well. So with Scopus, you'll see a lot of them are the same as Web of Science. You know, they want strong editorial policy and peer review description. They also talk a lot about diversity in geographic distribution of editors and authors. So that's a little bit different. They want to see about the academic contribution. They really want a strong aims and scope statement that's very clear and explains what the journal is about. They're looking for readability of articles and abstracts. Again, they are interested in seeing consistent publication schedule. So they don't want to see big gaps between publications. And that all the content should be available online. And then again, they want the website to be in English. So again, there's a little bit of a preference for English there. So now we're going to go back to the internet and look at Scopus. So Scopus has a slightly different design of their website, but up here you can search using different criteria. So it could be subject area, it could be title, it could be publisher, whatever you'd like. And then over here, you just type in the subject area that you're interested in. And we can look at geography again, just to kind of compare the two sites. There we go. And so they've got 1,062 results, but I noticed when I was looking at this, they have a lot of physical geography. So I think that's why it's a little bit broader. So again, like Web of Science, you can filter using different functions. So we can filter with open access, and then maybe we want to be very selective and we just want the first two quartiles. You can come down here and say, we just want to look at journals, and then apply this. And it'll produce a list of different journals. And we can just take a look at geography and sustainability. So you'll see they don't have quite as much basic information as Web of Science. They tell you that Beijing Normal University Press is publishing it, but there's no address there. But they do have the ISSN and the years of coverage. And when you come down here, they have their information about their metrics, site score, which is similar to the impact factor, but it has a slightly larger window of 3 years there. But what we need to do here is we need to go to the source homepage to get a little bit more information. So there you can, you'll be redirected. You'll see that this journal that's published by Beijing Normal University publishes in partnership with Elsevier, which is quite common for smaller presses. They'll partner with an international publisher just so that they have greater visibility. So here you can see this is a very slick website. You've got a lot of information about the metrics down here, but you're also going to have information about the journal, and you'll find the type of information about contact details and such there. So let's go back to the presentation here. Another good place to look for journals is on publisher websites. So the journal you submit to should be published by a trusted publisher, whether that's a local publisher or an international one. Can you make sure that you're on mute when you join? Great, thanks. Most well-established publishers will be members of industry organizations of some sort. And one key organization is the STM Association, but there are regional publishing associations and industry bodies that will have lists of members as well. So it's just kind of becoming familiar with what's relevant in your subject area and in your region. You can also look to organizations such as OWASPA, whose membership includes publishers and other entities working with open access. And also, remember your library community. Librarians know who the legitimate publishers are, and they can often help you navigate the resources that I've just been talking about and help you find other resources. So once you've identified some journals that you think would be a good fit for your work, you need to investigate further to make sure that the journals you're choosing are truly high quality. And unfortunately, in recent years, predatory publishers have managed to get some journals indexed in respected databases. So it's always a good idea to cross-check and make sure the journal possesses all of the characteristics of a quality publication. So your first stop should be the journal website, where you should be able to find all of the information the major indexes require. So all those criteria that I discussed earlier. So let's take a quick tour of a website so that you can see the type of information available. Now, I'm going to show you the Taylor and Francis website because I'm most familiar with it. However, any quality publisher, whether that be a large commercial publisher or a small university press, will have similar information on their sites. So let's pop over here. There we go. So this is Taylor and Francis website, and we're going to look for geography on this one as well. And as said, every publisher website is slightly different, so you'll just have to kind of explore. But again, you should be able to find the same kind of information. So with this website, you'll see we search for geography, and it's got one tab for articles and one tab for journals. So we'll click on the journals tab, and we see there's 160 journals that are geography titles. So we're going to look at the Annals of the American Association of Geographers and take a little look at their website. So when you come here, and this is going to be true with most journals, one of the first things you're going to see is the aims and scope statement, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But you'll also find a lot of other information on this site. So you're going to find information about journal metrics. So we've talked about a couple of the journal metrics, the impact factor and the site score, but there's also other metrics that you can look into. So you can look into speed and acceptance. So you can see how quick the peer review process is going for that particular journal on average. And you can also look at acceptance rates and things like that. And again, every publisher will have different types of information on their websites, but usually you can see, find a lot of this information. And there's usually also a lot of information about usage. The other thing that you'll find on journal websites is information about editorial boards. So here's a very big editorial board, but you see you've got the editors and their affiliation all the way down. You have the editorial office address, you have their phone number, and down below, you're going to have a link to the society website. So you can find a lot of information there. Now, the other thing that's good to look at on journal websites is just the kind of content that's published, just to kind of see what type of content there is and whether your work actually fits in that journal. So let's just take a look at one article, because I want to show you the other type of metrics that you can find on journal websites. So this is article level metrics. And if we go here, you'll see that most publishers now are really trying to focus on article level metrics. So here you'll see how many views this article has had, you'll see how many citations it's had, and then you'll see what's going on with alt metrics. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with alt metrics, this measures how research travels, basically. So how people are sharing research. So here you can see, this article in particular has been shared on Twitter 108 times. It's been featured in a blog and 3 news articles and in Mendeley. So there's a lot of information you can find on these websites. And the other thing that you'll find, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is you're going to find information on the instructions for authors on the site as well. So plenty of information. So these are just some of the quality checks that you can do. As you see, it doesn't take too much time. Once you find a journal, you can kind of go between these sites and kind of, look into these different elements and make sure that they're matching, that the publisher site is saying what the Web of Science site is saying, and that sort of thing. And really, I encourage you to do this. It's going to spare you a great deal of heartache later and a lot of time. And remember, always cross-check. So once you've identified some high-quality candidates, you need to do a final check to make sure your paper will be of interest to the editors. First, take a look at the content, especially the articles that have been published, say, in the past 3 to 5 years, to see if they are publishing similar types of articles in terms of topics, methodologies, article type, etc. And if you find research that is similar to yours, you should consider referencing it if appropriate. When you're checking out the editorial board, take the time to explore what type of research the editors are involved with. Is it similar or within the same areas as yours? It's good to remember that editorial boards are built to reflect the ambitions of a journal. So if they're interested in publishing research in a certain area, they'll try to appoint someone to the board that's a specialist in that area to act as an ambassador for the journal and to help with peer review, because they're likely to know all the kind of key figures in that particular research area. Also, when you're exploring the journal website, check to see if there are any calls for papers. There might be one that aligns with the type of work you do, and that can be a nice way to get into publishing. But the best place to get a sense of whether your work would be of interest is the aims and scope statement on the journal website. So aims and scope statements are designed to give librarians, students, researchers, and potential authors a clear understanding of what the journal is about and the type of research they're interested in publishing. So here's an example from the website we were just looking at, the AAG. That's what we call a generalist journal. So this journal covers broad subject matter across the discipline of geography. So everything from human geography to GIS to physical geography. However, they do highlight some requirements. So they want research that's innovative, and they want research that's high quality and that's making a novel contribution to the literature. And lastly, they highlight the different types of content they publish, so the different article types that they publish. And here's another example from geography. This is a journal with a slightly smaller scope, social and cultural geography. And here they want research that makes a strong contribution to critical geography, which is a particular type of theoretical geographic research. And they would also like research that confronts topical issues and fosters debate. So they're using very particular language there. They're interested in an international audience. And again, they highlight the different types of content that they're interested in receiving. And lastly, another example from geography. We're almost done with geography. And this one has a particular geographic and topical focus, Eurasian geography and economics. So this journal is interested in receiving research about particular geographic regions that focuses on particular research areas. And in addition, they want authors to clearly articulate their novel contributions to the literature regarding the region or theory, and they welcome comparative studies. And then lastly, they encourage papers that integrate studies of Eurasian geography and economics into the wider disciplinary debates. So as you can see, all of these journals have the word geography in their titles, but they're interested in publishing very different types of research. So it goes from a very broad scope to a very niche journal. So again, it's important that you take the time to carefully read the aims and scope statements before you submit your paper to a journal. And then prior to submitting, you should also carefully review the instructions for authors. Every journal will have one. These are the rule books for the journal. So under the instructions for authors, you will find information on APCs and waivers for open access for that particular journal, information about the peer review process, so the different types of peer review that they might conduct. There'll be information about the types of articles that they accept and the word limits for each type of article. There might be reporting guidelines, especially for medical titles, and there will be information about how you should prepare your manuscript. So if there's formatting guidelines, types of headings they would want you to use, a reference style. Some journals even have preference on the type of English. So all that information will be there. There will also be information about data sharing policies and any other relevant information, such as similarity checks conducted upon submission, which are becoming quite standard for most journals. So that's it for me. I can take questions now if there are any before passing over to Cenyu. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yeah, Victoria, we have been answering some of the questions.
Okay, great.
Like on the question and answer. So like there are two questions that haven't been responded to. So the first one is, I have retrieved articles from 5 databases to do a scientometric study of an institution I'm working for. How do I determine institution IF, bearing in mind some title were available in more than one database? I don't know if you have got an answer to that. If you can look at the question and answer.
I'm not sure I understand that question. Does somebody else want to take a stab at that?
I'm also finding it hard to understand it.
I'm not sure about institution IF.
Yeah.
Whoever asked that question, do you want to follow up? Purity, could you follow up with just a little clarification on that, and we'll get back to you on that.
Okay. And Alan, the next one is from Alan.
Yeah, I see that one. Yeah, so when you submit your journal, your article for peer review, you're submitting basically to the editor, and then they will send it out to peer reviewers. And besides your cover letter, that's the only contact you'll have until you get the responses from the peer reviewers. Now, I should say, if there's been a delay in peer review, if it's been going on for quite some time, maybe 4 months, it's perfectly okay to write back to the editor and say, hey, can I just get an update on the status of my paper? But there's really no reason why you would need to contact the board separately. Now, if you're interested in becoming a peer reviewer, then I would recommend that you send your CV to the editor-in-chief and so showing what your specialty is in that area, and let them know that you'd be interested in peer reviewing for the journal. Editors are always looking for new peer reviewers, so that's usually quite welcome.
Yeah, the next question, on article processing charges and if open access journals are free or charged. I think Cenyu will cover that since she's from the director of open access.
Yeah,
the journals, yeah.
Cenyu, you're going to cover that, yeah?
Yes.
Good.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we're we can proceed with Cenyu, then we can try to answer some of the questions as facilitators that are in the chat, because the list is now very long. So we'll try to answer as Cenyu is going through her presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
So shall I start? I think it's my turn.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So good afternoon, all the participants. And I am Cenyu. It's my pleasure to join today's Research for Life course. And thank you for the invitation from Research for Life. So in my session, I will talk about how researchers can avoid publishing with predatory journals, what are the key tools and resources researchers can use to address this problem. Next slide, please. Thanks. The overview of today's presentation will cover 3 key questions. The first question is what is the predatory publishing and what are their key characteristics? And the second question is how do researchers avoid predatory publishers? And the last one, maybe also, the interesting one for the researchers, what to do if researchers unfortunately have submitted to or published in a predatory journal. Next slide, please. Yes, before officially kick off my presentation, I'd like to, Victoria, can you go back to the Menti slide?
Can you see it?
Oh, yeah, I can see it. Thanks. Yes, before officially kick off my presentation, I'd like to invite everyone here in the webinar to contribute to this Menti questions. So how do you define a predatory publisher? So if you can just use a few words or very simple sentence to describe it, that would be fantastic. So yeah, just go to the same Menti website and use the code on the slide. Wow, I see one answer is coming, no peer review. Yes, this is a good one. Expensive, exploitative, minimal peer review. Yeah, I see some answers about the peer review and cover too many topics. Yeah, it's about multidisciplinary journal, probably. Yeah, and deceptive publishing. Yeah, they send a lot of emails, spam researchers. This is another one. Yeah, it's good. And short time for publishing. Yeah, normally they will have very short term around time for publishing. Yeah, I think, the key word here is probably about the peer review. So normally they don't have adequate peer review, or either they provide no peer review or they carry out little peer review. Okay, I see many answers are coming, so it's hard for me to keep up. But like earlier presentation, I think we are also gonna share the result of this Mentimeter question. So just feel free to give your answer. And thank you everyone for your contribution and time. I think for the stack of time, I'm gonna move on to the next slide and to explain more about what is predatory publisher. Yes, what is predatory publishing? So I think, as we all know, predatory publishers is a complex and evolving phenomenon. And based on your experience and observation and different researchers, institutions and organizations, they may have proposed their own definitions. So there actually has been a tough job to make a definite definition on what is predatory publishing. So today in my presentation, I will use the definition made by Nature in 2019 when they sponsored a conference by inviting leading scholars and other key participants from the different stakeholder groups, including publishers, founders, to discuss together and find out an international consensus definition. So I think this is a good one and it's adequate to embrace the complexity of predatory publishing. So in their definition, they refer to those publishers as the one which prioritize self-interest at the expense of scholarship. That means those publishers, they usually prioritize profit over the quality and the integrity of research. And they are characteristic by false or misleading information, deviation from best editorial and publication practice, a lack of transparency, and or the use of aggressive and indiscriminate solicitation practice. So these characteristics, I'm also going to explain more in my next slide. Next slide, please. So what are the characteristics of predatory publishers? So like I said, the product publishers, they are keep evolving. So the product behaviors are dynamic. So they are not static. So the deceptive practice that I list here in a slide, these a few points, they are not limited to these because they are new or predatory practice invited by those predatory publishers. But let's have a look. These a few key characteristics that those predatory publishers they normally have. The first characteristic is they will solicit submission through inappropriate marketing practice. For instance, they spend the researchers by unsolicited email just to attract more submission to their journals. And the second, their website display misleading information. For example, false claim of its contents indexed in the legitimate indexing service, like Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ, or they will boost fake impact factors or use any other deceptive metrics to make their journals appear more reputable than they actually are. And fake edict boards, they will list some respect researchers without their contents or knowledge. And even worse, they may create the fake identity of some researchers and put this fake person on the edit board. So it's really important for the researchers, they should verify the credibility of those edit board members. And the next one, journal or published title that may be similar to the legitimate ones. So this may cause the actual confusion by the researchers to distinguish the predatory title from the legitimate one. And the next one, website purporting to have Northern American locations. So those publishers, they may claim they are based in US or UK or Canada, but actually they operate their business in other countries. So most likely in Asia. And lack of transparency of their peer review process. So there's no clear information on their website about what type of peer review they provide and how many reviewers they will invite to conduct their review work and what are the reviewers, who are the reviewers, and so on. And the final point is about lack of transparency about cost. Predatory publishers, they will charge article processing fees or publication fees. But if their website, they have no clear information on that, you should raise a red flag and you may question if this is predatory. And sometimes they hide the publishing cost, but when you submit your manuscript, before the peer review, they may ask you to pay the publication fees, or upon the acceptance of your manuscript, they ask you to pay the fees in order to publish your articles. Next slide, please. Then it comes to the next very important questions. How do researchers can avoid predatory publications? So it is important for researchers to be vigilant and to be critically evaluate the journals before submitting their work. So to verify the reputation and credibility of a journal, so one of the recommendations for research here is to use quality indexing service like DOAJ, so Directory of Open Access Journals. So DOAJ is a unique, extensive and diverse index of peer-reviewed open access journals. So far, we have indexed a total of over 19,000 journals from 132 countries and published in 18 different languages. And the mission of DOAJ is to raise profile, visibility, and the impact of all quality open access journals across the world, regardless which discipline the journal is and where the journal is based, and what language the journal is published in. And DOAJ inclusion criteria has currently become a gold standard for open access publishing. It has gained a trust widely across the scholarly community. Next slide, please. To explain a bit more about DOAJ journal assessment process, so every journal, they need to apply to DOAJ in order to be indexed and we only accept those fully open access journals. So that means they provide immediate and fully open access for researchers. So we don't accept hybrid or delayed open access. And our inclusion criteria are closely aligned with principles of transparency and best practice in scholarly publishing. Actually, DOAJ is one of the co-authors for this principle and best practice guideline, and all the journal reviewers journal application will be reviewed by our DOAJ editorial staff, and we have a group, our community of volunteer editors to help with the review work. So every journal, they need to pass through very strict and rigorous peer review process to make sure they don't have any suspicious, they are not suspicious, and they are quality and fulfill our criteria. Only those journals, they will be included in DOAJ. And if you are interested in the full list of our criteria, you can just check the link for more information. And I would also recommend researchers to have a look at our criteria, because this will help you to gain more knowledge about the different aspects of the journal and what are their best practice, and then you get a more comprehensive understanding how that journal looks like. Next slide, please. So here I will give you a simple demo on how you can search open access journals and articles from your subject fields. So by opening the DOAJ's website, so here on the right side, I have our DOAJ's URL, and then you can land in our journal search page. And if you select any fields as your selection criteria, and here, for example, I use computer science as the field that I want to find the journal that I target to publish. So the result shows that in DOAJ, we have indexed more than 400 journals under computer science field. And if you want to further narrow your result, you can also look at the specific subject field under computer science and to further select the journal that you are interested in. Victoria, could you please move to the next slide? And when you have found out a specific journal that you are interested, then you should go and to open the journal's record. And on our journal record, it contains all the essential information about a journal, such as if the journal charge publication fees, and who is the publisher, and where the publisher is, which country is this journal from, and who is on the edit board. So here, from my arrow, you can find here we list the edit board. Then you just click the edit board, and then it redirects you to the journal's page for the information on their edit board. And we also collect the answers on how long does the submission to publication process take. So this gives you an idea. So how long will the journal to handle your manuscript when from submission to publications. And here the red box I highlight here is all the information about the publisher. If you want to check the country and also the published name, so you can find information from this box. The next slide, please. And if you want to find a specific open access articles from your subject field, you also can use DOAJ's article search page. So I want to highlight here is, in addition to journals, DOAJ also index article metadata in our database if the journal volunteer provide to us. So that means you can also find the articles using the DOAJ database. So like the screenshot I have here, so if you are interested to find articles about machine learning, so you just give the keyword in the search box, and it give you the result that we have more than 16,000 articles related with machine learning. And to be more precise, you can select the articles in the specific field. So the left bar here have the subject category, and then you can choose the specific subject field, you want to check the article about machine learning. This will further help you to narrow the result and to find the article that you are interested to read. Next slide, please. And next question, how do researchers can avoid, still the same question, how do researchers can avoid predatory publishing? So the another tool this presentation would like to recommend is for researchers to use Think, Check, Submit as a tool to choose a trusted journal or publisher for their research. So TCS is an international and cross-sector initiative. The main goal is to help researchers find out which is trusted journal and book chapters. And we offer a range of tools and practical resources to do that. And currently, TCS website provides two simple and user-friendly checklists, one for journals and one for books and chapters. So the main philosophy behind TCS is we don't recommend researchers to use either watch list or approval list solely, but for the long term, researchers need to build up their own evaluation skills, and they are able to identify if the journal can be trusted or not. And TCS is, so far, we are building up a library of educational resources, and through this educational resources, not only we cover the topic of predatory publishing, but also we have other the main issues related to the journal, such as what is peer review and what is copyright and license. So by learning more about the entire publication process, so this will help the researchers to further build up their evaluation skills. Next slide, please. And this is the the website of Think, Check, Submit. So welcome every researchers to explore the Think, Check, Submit website. Next slide, please. And I will briefly explain the Think, Check, Submit checklist, but mainly use the journal checklist as an example to showcase how researchers can use our checklist to check if the journal is the right one for you to publish your work. So as the name shows, the first step always is to think two questions. Are you submitting to a trusted journal? Is it the right journal for your work? Next slide, please. And the next step is go to check. So also the most important step. So every researcher need to go through. Here we have a list of questions to ask, and under every question there are also some specific questions to answer. So these questions are about the different aspects of the journal. Like, do you or your colleague know the journal? Have they ever heard about the journal before? And can you easily identify the contact of the publisher? Because normally, sometimes the private journal, they are very difficult to locate. So they don't provide the real physical address. So it's really important for researchers to make sure the journal or the publisher or the journal can be reached, and they provide a physical address or any other contact information, email, telephone on the website. And the next one is the journal claim about the type of peer review it uses. So this is about a decree process. So the journal should have the clear information on how they will carry out their peer review. Are the articles indexed and or archived in a dedicated service? This is about discoverability. So for private journal, they usually their article will not be archived in any dedicated service. That means you will receive no citation and less visibility of your work. So you need to make sure. So if your articles will be indexed somewhere, and if the journal provide the long-term archiving of your articles, in that case, if the journal disappear, so readers are still available, are still possible to access your contents. exactly what fees will be charged. So if they have fees, what kind of fees they charge? Sometimes not only the article processing fees, but they have other fees, color charge or review fees. Are these fees clearly described on the website? And when they will charge those fees? And are the publishers provided for guidelines provided for authors on the published website? Do they have clean information on authors' guideline, including copyright, license, ethics, policies, and the other conflict of interest and other editorial policy on the website? And the last one is the publisher a member of a recognized industry initiative? Are they a member of OASPA? And if they are open access journal, are they indexed in DOAJ? Or if it's a regional journal from Latin American, for instance, if their journal indexed in Latindex or Cielo? So here we have this list, and if you have the target journal, go through this list, and this help you to gain an overview of this journal and to evaluate if this journal is reputable and if this journal is published according to their publication goals. Next slide, please. And only if you can answer yes to all or most of these questions, only then should you submit your article. Next slide, please. And the last question, and also the most important question, is what if researchers have submitted to or publishing a private journal accidentally or unfortunately? So I think it is important to take appropriate and prompt action. So here are some practical tips for researchers to consider if that happens. So if you have submitted to a private journal, so the first step is you need to assess the situation to confirm if this journal is predatory. If confirmed, so please, immediately contact the journal's editor office to request them to withdraw your papers. And if you haven't paid any publication fees and haven't signed any copyright agreement, don't do that. Remember, if you end up in publishing the articles in the journal, it just makes things more trouble to communicate with the journal. So don't pay the publication fees and don't sign any copyright agreements. Just send a request to withdraw your paper, explain the reasons for your request, and provide evidence of the journal's predatory nature if possible. But if you are in a worst case, if you have published in a predatory journal, what you can do, so the suggestion is you can also contact the editor office and to send your request to ask the journal reject your papers. And if you have signed over your copyright, also to ask them to return all rights to you. Don't give up in the first place, but trying your best to keep requesting the private publishers to reject your papers. And two important notes here is always seek guidance from your institutions, supervisors, or senior colleagues, because they are more experienced and they know better than you how to deal with this situation. And make sure you keep a copy of all correspondence with the journal, all the emails and all the answers you receive from them. And this documentation will be valuable if you need to prove that you take action to rectify the situation. And also if you consider to resubmit your manuscript to the other journal, this just will help you to explain to the new journal editor the publication history of this manuscript. But most important of all, researchers, they should develop their assessment skills, and they need to consider and make sure the credibility of the journal and the publisher before submitting the work. So that's the most important, important step. So you need to consider, so what are the key criteria to evaluate a journal, and is it reputable, and is it the one that can be tracked and you want to submit your manuscript, can you move to the next slide? For the time limit, I think, yeah, that's all from my presentation. So I hope after this presentation, it will help researchers to know more about how to avoid falling prey to the predatory publishers. So and any question, welcome. Or so if we don't have enough time to address that in today's webinar, so also welcome to send me the email about the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Cenyu. That was great.
Thank you. Are there any questions in the Q&A?
There's a lot of them.
And
trying to
We are doing the
4
best we can.
minutes, so we can take some time to finish up. And I just want to alert people, including the presenter, we have a discussion forum in the cross-platform. Any question have not been answered or you want to carry on a discussion, please still do it in for the next week or so. Continue in a forum. We will make sure that your question will reach the presenter and such. And also the Q&A answer will probably be posted as well in the course forum in addition to the slides and material. So more question, Lenny, anything that you or Victoria, you find out which one? We still have like 21 there.
We're hopeful that the discussion continues in the forum and give the presenters time to look at the questions and answer in depth, as opposed to some of us trying to quickly answer them in the Q&A or the chat. So please, let's start some discussions in the forum and add your comments, your questions, and we'll see where that goes. We're hoping this is a successful tool to follow up on this specific webinar.
Yeah, there's a reason why we don't do webinar, one-shot webinar. Instead, we'll put it in the course because we have the forum. We can continue with that. And I invite all the panelists to join. If they cannot, we will relate, we will make sure that we digest the question, we'll relate it to the presenters. And you can actually specify which presenter you would like your question to address to, will help us to do the division. I mean, try to categorize.
Division of labor.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think I don't want to, unless it's really, really important things. And Victoria, you want to kind of sums it up, and because we're 1 minute off.
Yeah. No, it's a great session. Everyone's contributions were so diverse and wonderful. And yeah, as said, we've got a lot of questions here in the Q&A. We will address them, but we do hope to continue the discussion in the forum. And just keep in mind the next session that we're having in 2 weeks. What's the exact date? I'm forgetting the date.
June 6th.
Yeah.
That information will be open on the forum with the supplementary material and stuff. You can start discussing the topic on June 2nd. The forum, I mean the part on webinar 2 will open on June 2nd. So from now to before June 2nd, you can still talk about webinar 1.
And it's nice. It's going to be a nice flow into the next topic, which is really about writing, how to put a paper together. And a lot of those questions have been coming up about the writing process and thinking about how to make your work original and novel and that sort of thing. So yeah, we're looking forward to everyone joining that session. In the meantime, we'll just keep in touch on the forum.
Yeah. All right. So
Great.
thank you very much for everyone, hard work, all our presenter.
Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
So we
All right, bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.